Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the CD guy, Johnny Z here. Thank you so much for tuning back into the channel, and today I'm going to be ranking the studio albums of Guns N' Roses from worst to best. GNR don't have the biggest discography, only 6 albums in this ranking, but one of the more polarizing catalogs, I think, in rock and metal. So with that said, let's get started here. Let's dive in with my number 6. My least favorite has got to be the Spaghetti Incident from 1993. The only GNR album not backed by a tour, as the band was kind of falling apart by this point. It was the last full-length Guns N' Roses record to date to feature Slash, Duff McKagan, and Matt Sorum, and some of Izzy Stradlin's parts are included on the record, but mostly he was replaced by Gilby Clarke on rhythm guitar, and this was the only album to feature Gilby in the band as well. It's a covers record, mainly composed of classic rock and punk tracks, and for me, it's a mixed bag. You know, there's some really good stuff on here. I really enjoy their cover of Attitude by the Misfits, Raw Power by the Stooges, and Ain't It Fun featuring Michael Monroe. But, also there are, pretty average and unremarkable covers on here as well that don't stand out. Hair of the Dog is another good cover on here, but after that, there's nothing on here that does anything for me, and so this is really, like I said, kind of hit or miss. And, this was Duff McKagan's brainchild, and, the general idea the band had for this around 1992 into early 1993 was to make a covers EP. And in hindsight, I think that, cutting this in half to make an EP instead would have been a better idea. Number 5, let's go with the much maligned Chinese Democracy from 2008. Now, I did not live through the frustration of waiting for a new GNR record for over a decade and all the pushbacks and leaked songs that may or may not have been real and actually had cornrows for a while, which certainly was a choice, but I don't hate Chinese Democracy, but I think it's best looked at as an Axl Rose solo project, as this record features so many band members coming in and out of the group across the 9-year timeline in which these tracks were written. It's clearly Axl's most experimental work, and, a ton of ideas were thrown at the wall here, and I think it's definitely a bit bloated. It definitely did not have to be 71 minutes long, but, the end product here, I think, is aged pretty well, all things considered. Was this album a disaster? Absolutely, but was it the worst thing ever? I don't think so. I think people make it out to be a lot worse than it actually is, and the band have put out, some final versions of Chinese Democracy leftover tracks like Hard School, Absurd, which was formerly Silkworms, The General, which was at one point like a holy grail track from these sessions, and that's been done over the past few years. Even since the reunion with Slash and Duff McKagan, it seems like they're still milking Chinese Democracy for every last penny, and, there are still some great standout tracks on here that I enjoy, like the title track, Better, Street of Dreams, There Was a Time, Catcher in the Rye is one of my favorite GNR songs of all time, Sorry, IRS, This I Love. So there's some good stuff on here, but it just seems like the band are still coasting on, whatever they can put out from the Chinese Democracy sessions at this point, and I just wish they would release whatever they have left in the vault there and focus on writing new music. But like the band's current tour suggests, what you want and what you get are two completely different things, and hey, I just can't wait until 2030 when we finally get to hear Atlas Shrugged. GNR followed up their classic debut album with GNR Lies in 1988. A decent sophomore release here by the band. Very strong stuff, cut into 2 different parts. You had the live stuff taken from Live Like a Suicide. Fake live EP with added in crowd noises, but my copy here is one of the original Live Like a Suicides. I believe it was only limited to about 10,000 copies, and this is purchased not by me, obviously, but at Venus Records, and Venus Records has been closed for a long time now on 14th Street, but really cool to have an original copy of Live Like a Suicide. And, I don't love fake live albums, but as much as I hate the idea of, just piping in crowd noise and you have studio takes that are meant to be, live and meant to trick people, this definitely does capture the energy, and aggression of early GNR really well. That can be honestly hard to tell. And then, of course, you have 4 acoustic tracks recorded in 1988, including the hit Patience on GNR Lies, and it's strong for what it is. However, I don't consider it to be a proper full-length record, as most of these songs were already written around the same time as Appetite, and Live Like a Suicide had already been, previously released. Of course, like I said, limited, though, to 10,000 copies, but fans would have to wait until 1991 for a proper follow-up to Appetite for Destruction. And boy, did they get it. Not with one album, but with 2 in 1991, and now, I didn't want to include the Use Your Illusion albums as one joint entry on this list because, for me, they're 2 separate records, and to be honest, I like one a lot more than the other. So, that being said, I can never take To Use Your Illusion 2 the same way I could To Use Your Illusion 1, so, Use Your Illusion 2 comes in here at number 3. I really enjoy tracks like, I enjoy tracks like Civil War, it's one of their best songs ever. 14 Years, Knocking on Heaven's Door is a good cover, better than the Bob Dylan version in my opinion. Pretty Tied Up, Estranged is great, right? You Could Be Mine. So there's some really solid material on here. But for me, I think Get in the Ring, in my world, especially the latter, definitely do bring this album down a few notches. And the energy on both Use Your Illusions are very unbalanced. It's like the band didn't know if they wanted to be a rebellious, in-your-face rock band or a mature, lyric-driven, ballad-heavy band at the same time. Two has some great moments, but I prefer one for sure. Number 2, should be no surprise, Use Your Illusion 1. And, speaking of this record, this album has a collectively stronger track listing, in my opinion, with standouts that I enjoy on here, like Right Next Door to Hell, Dust and Bones, Live and Let Die, Good Wings cover, Don't Cry, Perfect Crime, Garden featuring Alice Cooper's Killer, Double Talk and Jive, Bad Apples, Coma. So there's a lot of great stuff. Of course, November Rain as well, right, with that great Slash guitar solo. No matter how many times I hear it, I can never get tired of it. And I think splitting this album into 2 records allowed for a lot of filler, though, on both Use Your Illusion records. And had there just been one record, I think you could have put together a album that might have been able to rival Appetite. But, this is just my own personal track listing. If I were to put it together, one album based on the 2 records, you guys can see it right over here. Collection of a handful of tracks here. Going to start things off with Right Next Door to Hell, Dust and Bones, Civil War, Live and Let Die, Don't Cry, 14 Years, You Could Be Mine, Knocking on Heaven's Door, November Rain, Estranged, The Garden, and Coma. I think that would be a really solid kind of way to combine both those records with, in my opinion, the best material. And lastly, the obvious number 1 choice, I think, at least for most people, myself included, I gotta go with Appetite for Destruction, their great debut record from 1987, and 40 years later, this is still the best work GNR have done in their entire careers. During a time when MTV and metal radio was dominated by hair and glam metal, GNR came out of nowhere with an unmatched ambition and aggression, and there's a reason just about every song on here is played on classic rock radio to this day. My favorite song on here has got to be My Michelle, one of my favorite GNR songs ever, but really this is just a perfect debut album in every sense of the word, and, looking at the track listing, I mean, they're all classics, right? Welcome to the Jungle, It's So Easy, Night Train, Out to Get Me, Mr. Brownstone, Paradise City, My Michelle, Sweet Child of Mine, You're Crazy, Anything Goes, Rocket Queen. Incredible record here, and a record that's so strong the band have really been able to coast on its success for most of their careers. So that wraps up my ranking of the studio albums of Guns N' Roses from worst to best. You guys can see my list right over here. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel down below, help me reach my goal of 4,000 subs here on YouTube. We are getting dangerously close. If you've not subscribed yet, it is greatly appreciated. Turn on the bell for notifications so you don't miss a new upload, and let me know down in the comment section below what are your thoughts on my list and how would you rank the Guns N' Roses studio albums. I know there's not a lot here, but I included the Spaghetti Incident too, just so instead of 5 there'd be 6, so it'd be a little bit of a longer video, so I'd definitely be interested in how you guys would rank them as well. Please let me know all that good stuff down in the comment section below, and until next time, it's the CD guy, Johnny Z, signing off. Take care, everybody.